All right, since I already have a bill here, there's a number of ways we can approach this, right? You know, you could show the I'm just a bill thing, or I usually like to put, you know, the legislative, executive, or judicial branch on the board so we can kind of like come back to it. But we're talking about a bill here. So spoiler alert, you know, in order to become a law, the president has to sign it. So this will, you know, it'll start off in the legislative branch and it'll make its way to the president and he won't sign it. So that's important for you to understand moving forward, especially when we look at a pretty boring document called the Wade Davis bill.
If you thought Lincoln's plan for amnesty and Reconstruction was boring.
Oh yeah.
Now,
Yes.
We're not talking about Dwayne Wade and Anthony Davis here. You know, you NBA fans, it's not. It's two really old white guys, like, just old.
So we could set the stage here. Of course, you know, the goal is to bring the blues and the grays back together. Lincoln's plan was meant for that. It was very lenient. It was very nice. It was the "Why can't we be friends" plan.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with that song, which none of you are, but who cares? Okay, so here's the thing. We want these two sides to come back together. Lincoln has the "Why can't we be friends" plan. The South needs to be rebuilt because it looks like, you know, a frat house or the cafeteria after a food fight. The great task that's going to remain before us, as was mentioned in the Gettysburg's address, was to get the North and the South back together again. And in order to get two sides to be friendly once again, you can't kick the loser while they're down. So that's what the 10% plan was. And should we just even review the highlights of the 10% plan before we get into
No,
this?
they can watch it.
They can watch it? All right, yeah, watch it. All right, so 10% plan is going to be the easy one. 10% of the population, 10% plan, swears an oath of allegiance to the Union. You can now become a part of society, a part of government. Very, very lenient. So if we said that his plan was lenient, and these two guys are not fans of the plan, so this plan, I would almost anticipate, with the build-up and the lead-up that we've given to them, is probably going to be harsh.
Right, because they didn't. If they're not a fan of Lincoln's leniency,
Right.
they probably want to see the South being punished for all of the death and destruction they've caused over the last 4
So
years.
hopefully that's what you're paying attention to right now, is like the harshness of it. You know, if you have the Lincoln's "Why can't we be friends" plan, this is going to be like, you know, why can't we, I don't know, step on their face or kick them while they're down plan. If you,
I'm thinking of a particular House of Pain song about putting on some sort of shoe and.
Oh, okay. And kicking them. Okay, good. All right, kicking them while they're down.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, so here we go. Again, we're looking in the legislative branch where this is going to tip you off as to the kind of language you're thinking about, because legislative branch is thinking, you know, if you're thinking L, you're thinking laws, you're thinking bills. So I'll read it. You try and stay awake.
Yeah,
We'll try and stay awake, and then we'll kind of, you know, when you nod off and catch something, when I'm done, you tell me what we should talk about. So here's the Wade Davis bill. Not a law. You know, the president has to sign it to be a law. So, being enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled, that in the states declared in rebellion against the United States, the president shall, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, appoint for each a provisional governor, whose pay and emoluments shall not exceed that of a brigadier general of volunteers, who shall be charged with the civil administration of such state until a state government therein shall be recognized as hereinafter provided.
What? All right. Basically,
Yeah, here we go.
in really simple terms.
Here we
In
go.
really simple terms, the president gets to appoint with the advice and consent of Senate. The Senate's like, hold on.
Yep.
We get our say here.
Yep.
So if the president wants to appoint somebody, we have to approve that person, who is basically going to become the martial law dictator over a particular state until that state writes its new constitution that gets approved by the United States of America.
Here's something that's different. They're going to appoint a governor. You're not going to elect a governor, so you kind of get an idea where that's going.
So basically, and they will be in charge with civil administration of such state. They're basically saying the president gets to pick somebody, the Senate gets to approve that somebody, who will be in charge of the southern state.
So then this person's like a sub.
Yeah.
There we go.
You know, a substitute dictator, if you would, because dictators don't get elected, they get appointed.
Pointed.
You know,
Okay.
pretty much. So they're basically declaring martial law over the southern states until they write a government.
And of
that
course,
gets
martial
recognized.
law, you're using the military to enforce that
Yep.
law as well, just to keep in mind, because that's one of the things that, you know, as curriculums go in Reconstruction, you know, we're going to enforce Reconstruction laws, and by we, you know, you're talking about the North, you're talking about the United States, but the thing that's always going to be in the background throughout this unit is that for the most part, you're going to have the military enforcing that martial law. So when you see martial law, you got to think, you know, this is the military in your neighborhood enforcing laws, not the police, the military.
Did Lincoln anywhere in his 10% plan mention the military enforcing the law?
I don't recall it.
I don't think
recall
so.
it. And the thing is, I'm glad you just brought that up too, because, you know, students go, the military in your neighborhood, that can't be bad. Yeah, it can. It's
Just
not.
ask the citizens of Boston in 1770s.
Right. You don't want the military in your neighborhood. Yeah, I mean, if like one's buying a cup of coffee, that's another thing. But you don't want the military in your neighborhood enforcing law. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. It's like, no, I don't even have an example
no,
for it. Okay.
it's not. It's just not
So
good.
let's see. I was gonna
Continue with the bill.
Whoa.
So we've kind of skipped ahead. Like trust me, this bill is really long and boring.
Really long.
We tried to make it a little bit shorter and boring for you.
Yeah, you're only getting the good parts. Okay, so section 7. The other nonsense has been skipped out. And be it further enacted that the convention shall declare on behalf of the people of the state their submission to the constitutional laws of the United States, and shall adopt by the following provisions: hereby prescribed by the United States in the execution of the constitutional duty to guarantee a republican form of government to every state, and incorporate them in the Constitution of the state. That is to say, pause for laughter. First, no person who has held or exercised any office, civil or military, except offices merely ministerial and military offices below the grade of colonel, state or confederate, under the power shall vote for or be a member of the legislature or governor. But wait, there's more. Second, involuntary servitude is forever prohibited, and the freedom of all persons is guaranteed in said state.
All right.
If you want to be a lawyer, this is the kind of language we're talking about. So here we go.
I want to start off here.
You go ahead.
Let's go back to the 10% plan.
Okay.
Lincoln basically saying that these people will volunteer to take an oath of loyalty to the United States. Wade Davis are basically saying that the states will hold conventions and the people of the states will submit.
Give up.
Submission. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
I bow before the United States of America. Like, so basically, you will submit to our laws. This is not lenient
No.
by any stretch of the imagination. This is dropping the hammer on the South. It's like, we won, you lost, we are going to punish you severely for this. Then going on, you know, the people that we're going to punish specifically,
Anyone who held office, civil or military. So when you're talking about military, you know, and the thing with understanding this document, I think, is two things. If you're me, who's not, you know, sometimes doesn't grasp things. The one thing is that we have the 10% to compare this to get an idea of, whoa, this is messed up. The other thing is the vocabulary, right? So if you're looking at Lincoln's plan, he only wanted to really punish the leaders. And what does that mean? That's like about this much.
The
of
anchovies.
The military. The anchovies and the pizza, okay? Where we go. No person who has held or exercised any office, civil or military. This means almost like what? Anybody in the military at this point.
except for ministerial. Basically, the secretaries.
Right, right.
You know, like,
So if you held a rifle,
yeah.
which is, you know, what's the number we're looking for?
2.5
I don't know,
million
people. If you're, that's it. Done. If you held a rifle, if you pushed artillery, you're done.
Civil or military. Even if you are the guy in charge in your local town of going around from farm to farm and getting food to send to the Confederate Army, you are being punished.
Who is, I wonder, right? I wonder if there's a document or anything out there, who would actually meet the requirements for this?
Of like not being punished?
Of like, you know, who would, like, you know, this, they're going, okay, all these people are going to be punished. Who would, you know.
Basically like the paper boy.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, the kid who's like, hey, go deliver this message from Robert E. Lee to Stonewall Jackson. He's like, yes, sir. And then they go and do it. Like, you're basically just in charge of like paperwork. Then you would be free. And of course, involuntary servitude is forever prohibited.
And there's nothing to make fun of on that, unfortunately.
Involuntary servitude is a really fancy way of saying slavery.
Yeah. And the freedom of all persons is guaranteed in that state.
So, Lincoln, let's heal the Union. Let's let our nation heal and move forward. Let's be very lenient. Wade Davis, let's punish the South for as long as we possibly can.
Now this
let's
part,
kick them while they're down.
This part, yes, awesome.
As
Very
we're going
doable.
to see, every single plan.
Yeah.
There winds up being 4 different plans
Right,
for
yeah.
Reconstruction. Every single plan required slavery to be over.
Right.
But every single plan was different in who and why they were being punished.
And that is the great thing about like our government, our society. You know, people do deliberate. People do, you know, debate on certain things. And when you look at it, there's pros and cons to everything. This part, laughable at best. This part, necessary. And when Mr. Cogan's bringing that down, how these plans always had that, at least there was that common ground in quite a few of these plans as well.
So basically,
I stole this from you.
So this was from Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, delivered on March 4th, 1865. You know, with malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds.
Ooh, good word.
To care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. To do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. Does this sound like somebody who's ready to like crack the whip out the South?
Not really.
No.
And you know what? There's some of that language that you can almost take from here and apply it to certain points in history. When you're looking at, you know, to do all, achieve and cherish lasting peace. You know, as like with quite a few speeches he gave during this time period where people have taken some of the phrases out of there and tried to make it their own.
But as again, we've been kind of ending all these episodes.
Charity for all,
yeah.
You know, I like that.
You know, little did Lincoln know that while he was delivering his second inaugural address on March 4th, 1865, there was a man in the crowd who was part of a conspiracy to assassinate him. John Wilkes Booth was there, was watching this speech be delivered, and about 5 weeks later, he will carry out on his plot and he will assassinate the president. Lincoln was getting ready. Lincoln was getting ready to go to battle with Congress over his lenient plan and the Wade Davis bill. You know, what were we going to get? We were going to have a compromise. I mean, our nation was built on compromise, and they were going to reach some. All right, maybe the 10% plan was too lenient. Maybe we go up to 20. Maybe we go up to 25%.
You're going to find that
right.
common ground.
They're going to find. But again, it's that great what if. What would we have gotten? What would we have gotten if Lincoln wasn't assassinated? Because what we do get didn't work.
So rather than pull out some of those boring quotes from that, I mean, anything we want to hit up on our notes requires a majority of white men in each southern state to swear loyalty to the Union.
Yeah, that we didn't hit on in the actual primary source. So you're basically 51%.
Yeah.
We go from 10% to 51%.
Doesn't even
must swear their loyalty.
Doesn't even seem achievable.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't.
Denied the right to vote to anyone who held a voluntary position within the Confederacy.
Again, not achievable.
Yeah, you held a rifle. You are suspending your right to vote for the rest of your life.
Again, a large number of the population.
Lincoln doesn't sign it. Why?
He feels it's too harsh. He wants them to come together. He's like, hey, this is too mean. This is the let's kick them while they're down plan. I want them to come back together, and we're not, they're not going to agree. And by they, we're talking about this. The South is not going to want to agree to this. This is just too harsh.
I almost thought like another out of nowhere. I just had this like, it's almost like, you've been attacked by a dog.
Okay.
Dog's chasing you. Dog's chasing.
And
you.
I have been.
Right. Dog's chasing you. He's nipping at your heels, nipping at your legs, and then the dog gets hit by a car.
Okay.
And it's laying there, and it's And like Lincoln wants to go over, he wants to pick that dog up.
I would too.
Wants to pet that. Yeah, the dog was just chasing him.
He
The
wanted
dog
to
was
kill
just
you.
trying to.
He
Was
wanted
just trying to kill
He
you.
wanted to eat your face.
And Wade
He did.
Davis would want to go over to that dog and just step on
And
the
just
dog.
finish
Yeah,
him off.
pretty
Where
much.
Lincoln was like, he's gonna pick him up, he's gonna call for help, he's gonna pet him, he's gonna call him like,
Put like a little like dropper in their mouth and feed them.
it's a great one. And you know what? You need silly dog scenarios like that to kind of make this stick.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is tough. This is tough. We promise you it'll get better after this. We promise. It couldn't get
Alright.
worse.
It couldn't.